Welcome to After the Buzzers Sports Podcast, the podcast that's all about sports and real issues. And we've got a great show for you today. And I want to remind you that we want to hear from you. So give us a call at 803-570-5031. That's 803-570-5031. And also make certain that you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and click notifications so that you know when we are live. Let's go.
What's up, guys and girls out there in After the Buzzers land? This is your man, Marvin Orange. Happy Wednesday to you guys. We got a great show for you tonight. As always, I got my man, Lee Jones, with me by my side. The beautiful Raquel M.R. Thomas. She's not able to join us this evening. She has some other commitments. She will be back next week. But we do have a special guest in her place. We got head men's football coach at Allen University, Mr. Teddy Keaton, who's going to step in, and I'm sure he'll do an admirable job in Raquel's place. She is hard to replace, but we're going to try to do the best we can tonight. As always, as well, in the background that you guys heard earlier, Mr. LP always bringing the heat. Listen, guys, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, especially on YouTube, subscribe, get the notifications. We want you to call in. We got some great topics tonight, 803-570-5031. Let's kind of run through these topics real quick before we get this heat started. It's reported that 13 Miami Marlins have tested positive for COVID-19 on Sunday. Major League Baseball had to cancel 2 Marlins games and the Yankees-Phillies game. You guys chime in, give us your thoughts on what you feel about that, how it's going to affect Major League Baseball, and even more so than that, other sports leagues moving forward with this whole COVID pandemic. With baseball season underway, last Friday was Barry Bonds' 56th birthday. We thought that it would be good to discuss, do you think Barry Bonds should be a Hall of Famer? I have some strong thoughts about that. I'm sure some of you do as well. Chime in. Let's get your thoughts on that one. The NFL players who attend high-risk events and contract COVID-19 face team discipline and not getting paid. What do you guys think about this with some of the stipulations the NFL has put in place about COVID-19 and some of the venues guys may visit? So call in, chime in, tell us what you think. Also, staying with the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks traded 2 first-round picks, one in 2021 and 2022, and a third-round pick in 2021, and Bradley McDougald for Jamal Adams and a 4th-round pick in 2012. Your thoughts about the trade? Who do you guys think won the trade? Was it good for Seattle? Was it good for the Jets? Let's chime in and get some thoughts about that. Also, staying with football, Alex Smith, he was cleared to resume football-related activities for the Redskins. Is he going to be a viable option moving forward for the Redskins this year? What are your thoughts about that? I know I got a lot of Redskins fans out there. Do you think that the Redskins, I think it's Dwayne Haskins, do you think he's the future? Call in. Let's kind of chime in on that. Let's also stay in football and preview the AFC South. We got Tennessee, we got Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville. Who you think comes out victorious in that division? Do you see a sleeper in that division this year? Let's get some fire going on that one as well. Staying and moving to college football. We got Iowa football, and the head men's football coach at Iowa see black players speak out about racial inequalities within the program at Iowa. We know Coach Keaton may have some thoughts about this with football being right up his alley, so we're interested to hear what he has to say, but also call in. Let's see what you guys have to say about that. Moving on to the NBA, we got Lou Williams. He was scheduled to be quarantined for 10 days because he went outside the bubble and did something crazy to go get some wings, as you guys all know. And we know what Atlanta's famous for besides some other things. So he went and picked some wings up. Now he's in quarantine. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's just a precursor of things to come for the NBA? Also, Kyrie Irving donated $1.5 million for the WNBA players who sit out this season for COVID-19 concerns and social justice issues. Do you think that was a good move for Kyrie? The Seattle Storm and New York Liberty walked off the court before the national anthem and dedicated 26 seconds of silence and the entire season to Breonna Taylor. What are your thoughts about how the WNBA reacted to COVID-19? I mean, to some of the things that they're doing for Breonna Taylor. And lastly, Chicago Bears, New Orleans Saints coach Mike Ditka in the news again. He's always saying something. Said if you kneel during the national anthem and disrespect the flag, you should get the hell out of the country. I know we're going to have some strong thoughts about that. So we're going to bring the fire on that one with Coach Ditka. So let's get into it. Again, remember, 803-570-5031. That's how you guys can get at us. Subscribe. hit that notification bell on your YouTube. Let's get into it. 13 Miami Marlins baseball players tested positive for COVID-19, guys, causing causing the Marlins to cancel 2 games and also the Yankees and Phillies game. What are your thoughts about this COVID-19 with Major League Baseball? What are your thoughts about other sports leagues moving forward with this happening? Since Coach Keaton is the guest today, we're going to let him start off and see what he thinks, and we're going to get this thing moving. Coach, start us off, man.
Well, when you think about that, that's an isolated incident. I think that with the baseball teams, they're still trying to figure out a way to make money. I always say I have to put my administration hat on when I talk about this stuff because it's just an isolated incident. The Major League Baseball is going to continue to play. They're going to continue to try to find a way. They're trying to put things out there to observe what they can do in order to, learn from the situation that happened with the Marlins. What can we do better? What can we do different? But stopping baseball is not about to happen today. They're going to move forward. They're going to continue to do the things that they can do because there's not enough evidence to say that we should stop baseball because we had one isolated incident.
Lee, I mean, do you think they got a plan or do you think they just praying?
You're a conspiracy theorist, so I know.
I mean, look.
Hey, Coach, he was a conspiracy theorist, but
that's right.
I agree with Coach because let me say this. Did the plan work? They tested the Phillies teams and they tested the Baltimore. Nobody else contracted the virus. So in essence, their plan did work. Now, it ran through the Marlins, right? But they played the Phillies. None of their players got it. None of their coaches, any of those guys tested positive for the virus. So in essence, it worked. You're going to have isolated incidents. So I agree with Coach Keaton that this is not going to stop Major League Baseball. They knew some team was going to have an outbreak. And what they do, they canceled the 6 games. The Marlins may not play all 60 games. They ain't that good anyway. So they're probably going to be in last place anyway. So they're not, but it's working. And think about it, Marvin. We say this all the time, right? It's about the economics, right? It's about the money that's being made. So unless 3 or 4 teams have an outbreak, they're not going to stop anything. They're going to keep rolling with this thing. And you the one silver lining for me anyway, Marv, is you know me. The NFL is just sitting back and taking notes. Because
that boy want that NFL to play.
They're taking notes and they're going to learn from this because the NBA got it down packed. The bubble is working. We all can agree to that. That the NBA, other than the fact that they better hurry up and get some barbershops in the bubble, and they better go talk to Madam Susie and have her. That's another topic for another show. But football and baseball, as long as there's not an outbreak on multiple teams, well, they're gonna keep playing, man.
But listen, guys, let me pose this to both of you, and maybe you guys can chime in and help me with this, okay? So what you said, Lee, was very important. You said the NBA is doing it right. What does the NBA have? It has a bubble, right. Okay? Now, Major League Baseball came out today basically and said their plan was to basically do contact tracing, quarantine the players, and then also find out about the close contacts of where they've been. But how do you do that if you're not in a bubble? You can't do that, especially if they're at home. You don't know where guys are going. You don't know where guys have been. Now, if they're on the road, different story. You might be able to trace that because the routine is a little bit different. But if they're at home, they're not in a bubble, you can't really effectively trace where these guys have been. What, you putting an ankle monitor on them like they're on probation? I mean, how do you effectively really do this? So for me, I feel like this is just a precursor to things to come. I think we're going to see this grow even further, and it's going to be a detriment to other leagues moving forward. That's just my thoughts. What y'all think about that?
Well, I'm gonna chime in there. I'll give you half and half on that. There's a half of people that think that from the emotional fan and scared standpoint to say that this is going to happen. But like I said, you have to think about the isolated incident. Yep. No other teams have had that. So when you're talking to, people from DHEC, CDC, they're only going to want to talk about that isolated incident. I think moving forward, you guys are absolutely right. I think the NFL are taking notes about this bubble thing and trying to figure out what the NBA did right and what they can do to keep it from happening. And I think it's trickling down to the collegiate sports. We'll have to figure out that the COVID-19 ain't going nowhere.
Right.
They want to play sports. They need their money. Money got to be made. And I don't care how much we disagree with it, they're going to try to play. And as far as football concerned, we have to play because that's the only way they're going to get paid. They're going to make $1 million and they spent $2 million last year. So the players need some money right now. So it's some that's going to opt out that they saved their money. They got a good old lady at the house. They won't let them spend all their money. But it's some that's been turned up at the chicken wing spot located near a club, and they've spent everything, and it's time to re-up. The car note got to be paid, the insurance, everything got to be paid. So if they catch COVID-19 in the process, hey, I got to run this ball, baby.
Hey, but that's my point though, Lee. Check this out. And coach, you a coach. You deal with young athletes. You've been a coach for a long time. So basically what Major League Baseball is saying, and right now the NFL and NCAA, they saying, you know what? We not bubbling nobody, and we gonna trust you not to put yourself in a position to go catch COVID-19. We entrusting you that you're not gonna go out here and go to the strip club and get some chicken wings, or you're not gonna go to, wherever else. We trusting that you're going to do the right thing not to bring this back into the organization. And
Well,
Lee, we already see what's happening, man.
Baseball need to do the same. And we're going to talk about football in a minute, but they have some protocols on what these guys can and can't do. But Mark, look, Coach Keaton said it. These guys got to make some money. Now, game 45, it may be different, but right now, them guys towing the line. You're talking about a bunch of broke brothers now. They got to make some money. That's what's going on now. But all joking aside, the contact tracing, it really has worked, to be honest with you, because like Coach said, nobody else has tested positive yet. That's a positive sign to me, because we all know there's going to be some outbreak. People are going to get it. And I commend Major League Baseball on how quickly they adjusted the schedule and canceled the games. And hell, they playing games tonight, all the other teams. So it's actually working. The protocol is working. So I give them kudos. We'll see how it goes on down the line. But Marv, you and Raquel, Coach, I'm so glad you're on. I'm good right now.
Lee, I'm going to piggyback off of this. The more that they can see it, the more they can have actions that come in with the case. The cases coming up, they're going to have an opportunity to be able to explore different options so they can keep it from continuing to happen. Absolutely. So I think everybody's learning from everybody. The only thing I hate when you guys put this college and pro together. The colleges have to think about the amateurism of a kid of, I got Lee Jones' son. And if Lee Jones' son get killed and he's not getting any compensation for
right,
that's a big deal right there. See, in the NFL, that's their job. That's what they get paid.
Absolutely, Coach.
So
absolutely.
It's almost like it's like me. I can't call Allen because they decided to go to work today because COVID-19's out there. If the president say you got to be to work, I got to figure out a way to live with COVID-19 because I got to get paid. And in my lifestyle, I say romance without finance is a nuisance. So I promise you, every one of those guys that are out there in the NFL, Major League Baseball, well, they got a contract in Major League Baseball that they're going to get paid regardless, I think. But, football, I can speak on a lot because those guys need that money. I don't care. We can laugh, we can joke, but that's why you see the TV show Broke. It wouldn't came out on Netflix if it wasn't broke. It's true because some of them have not. If it was and COVID-19 was what they thought it was, a lot of them would have did what Hightower and some of those other guys did and say, I ain't playing this year. But instead, they all on there like, look, give me the ball, like Jim Brown said.
Hey, you haven't heard any just also ran. Everybody that's out in the NFL right now, and I get it. You just had a child born, Coach. You don't want the potential to get back to your child, or you got a family member. Those are the reasons they're opting out. Hey, Godspeed to them. They should do it. But the average brother, who he ain't opting out. The average brother gonna be there getting ready to go. He ain't worried about nothing. Like Coach said, I got 17 checks coming. That's all. Money. I'm getting that back. There ain't no doubt about that. So
He's
All right,
already
guys.
he's already budgeted for at least 5 of them checks because he said during the season, COVID-19 that was his idea of budgeting because COVID-19 might shut him down.
All right, guys. Well, you know what, Coach. You might have brought me around on some of the things you just said. So I might chill with the conspiracy theories for just a second, kind of see your side. And we know Lee just wants sports to happen. So I can't really all the time with Lee. I can't go there. But very good. Hey guys, we bringing the heat right now. 803-570-5031. Call in, tell us what you think. Let's kind of stay with baseball. We got Barry Bonds. It was his birthday. I think it was last Friday, 56th birthday. We thought it would be pretty appropriate to talk about Barry Bonds' career and to see what you guys think about whether he really should be in the Hall of Fame or not. So I know, Lee, you got some strong opinions about this. Let's kind of start with you and let's get your thoughts about that.
To me, the greatest baseball player I know that I've ever seen is Barry Bonds. And I know people talk about steroids. Let me say this about steroids. Jeff Bagwell, he's in the Hall of Fame. It's steroids. Tim Raines, cocaine. Pudge Rodriguez, steroids. They're all in the Hall of Fame.
Roger Clemens.
The reason people don't like Barry is because of that arrogance Barry had when he played. You know, Barry knew he was good. He's always been good since he stepped on the field, since he played at Arizona State. And so people don't like that. They want you to humble yourself like Mark McGwire did. You know, Mark McGwire did it. I'm crying and stuff. Man, get out of here. You're a bum. Yeah. You cried. Barry Bonds said, I'm the greatest baseball player, greatest hitter that ever played. And all of his records prove it. The man had 3 MVPs prior to any type of steroid allegations, and he got 4 more after that. He's the greatest baseball player I've ever seen. And for me, he should not only be in the Hall of Fame, shame on them for not putting him in the Hall of Fame, because we don't know how many of those other guys that are in there now, I named off a few, but how many of those other guys that have done steroids or that Alex Rodriguez. Now, he's all on TV now, and I ain't got anything against Alex, great ball player, but he admitted to doing it, but he gets all these TV, now he's on TV everywhere, announcing baseball games. You don't even see Barry Bonds. It's his personality and his attitude, and I think that's a shame. He's the greatest baseball player I've ever seen. Along with
remember, guys, that whole era was tainted by steroids. Let's not act like Barry Bonds was the only one participating in shooting himself up with steroids. And also remember, baseball made a lot of money off the probably the 2 biggest steroid users of that era when the home run chase between McGwire and Sosa. Baseball had that all over the place. It was the greatest, 2-man duel in a baseball season that we've seen. And that was right in the midst of the steroid era. And also one other thing, we talk about players all the time. What about managers? Remember Tony La Russa? He was the manager of that St. Louis Cardinals team when McGwire was going through that. Remember Joe Torre? He had Jason Giambi on that team. That was really good. And they won a whole bunch of games with those guys. But that didn't taint their image as managers when they won all those games with those steroid era guys. So yeah, he's the greatest player. And like you said, Lee, 3-time MVP before even that started, 400 home runs, 400 stolen bases. I think he's one of the only guys to ever do that. 8-time All-Star, 8-time Gold Glove, 7-time Silver Slugger, all before this whole steroid era. His numbers before that are Hall of Fame numbers. So let's not even think that.
Here's my take on this: Barry Bonds. If you mention the greatest baseball players, he has to be up there with the best. It wasn't because of steroids that Barry Bonds won't get the type of votes that he needs. If you guys can remember, Lee touched on it. The arrogancy he displayed with the media during that time has killed and made him, as you say, you don't see him on TV. You don't know anything about him. You don't know where he's even living. The arrogancy that he displayed with that situation that was going on, he didn't get on TV crying. He stood up. He said whatever. He testified, everything that he's supposed to, but he did it with a degree of arrogance. Like, I don't really care what y'all think. It is what it is. He was never convicted of steroid use. Because remember, it wasn't on the baseball books at that time.
Right,
This was
right.
just a conspiracy. It was a lot of people playing baseball at that time that was using steroids that didn't get it. So in my humble opinion, I believe that the reason why he's not in is because the way he treated the media at that time. And some of those people, when he talked to America and when he got up, he basically told y'all, he showed you his middle finger and walked away, and they still haven't forgiven him for it, and they're never going to give him a shot. I think 2022 is when his last chance to be on the ballot, which is so close. Maybe somebody might die and say that he is. You cannot leave out the best baseball player in my era that I've lived through. He is arguably one of the best baseball players that I ever watched play.
Guys,
Hitter of all time. I mean,
great
just
hitter.
The most walks, the most intentional walks, and then to go back to has the most 30 home run, 30 steal seasons. I mean, all of this stuff, and this was prior. All of this stuff,
Right.
He was doing this stuff prior to even steroids even being in the picture. Man, the guy is just fabulous. And like I said, he and Ken Griffey Jr., you can't go wrong.
Lee, I just want to know who he pissed off in between the baseball world. How much of his arrogance did he take out on somebody to cause them to leave out one of the greatest baseball players?
You know how the media is. I mean, the media, they want you to humble yourself. You know it, Coach. You coach out. They want you to humble yourself in front of them. And
guys,
especially you being black and you're not humbling yourself, they're gonna roast you, man. They took him down bad, and it's unfortunate.
So let me ask you guys this question before we move on. Is it time then, since we're sitting here talking about Hall of Fame ballots in baseball, NFL Hall of Fame, NBA MVP award, is it time to start taking the rights away from these journalists, these writers, the media guys who have the votes in this, when they start making, like Terrell Owens and we got Barry Bonds, like these were no-brainer Hall of Famers, right? And you got guys holding grudges, not based on what they did on the field, but based on the interaction that you've had with them is it time to start allowing to making the voting go another place? How do we do voting differently? Because clearly it's grudges that a lot of these guys hold.
I think so. I think so, Marv. I think because let me say this, and I'll take the football. Anybody that thinks that Terrell Owens wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer is a fool. I mean,
right.
Anybody that would do now the antics, but you know what? There are people in the Hall of Fame that was racist, that raped people. I mean, that's all kind of malcontents in baseball and football Hall of Fame. I mean, everybody loves Lawrence Taylor, but look at the journey Lawrence Taylor went on his entire life, right? And to exclude T.O. is a travesty. To exclude Barry Bonds is a travesty. And I think, Marv, I agree. I always thought, for me personally, and I'll let you get in, Coach, is that, the sports writers should have a percentage, but the players should too. Like retired players should have a percentage in the Hall of Fame voting because, these sports writers, man, if you piss them off, they carry that grudge forever, and then they let it cloud your accomplishments on the field. So I think so. I think the players should be a part of that anyway.
I won't say how I feel about the situation, but I do know the power of the pen is very powerful, and it has ruined. I mean, you think about LT. LT smoked crack, and he's still in the NFL.
Right.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I don't care what you say. I mean, but can you doubt that he was one of the best football players to play the position? That's all that matters to me. I don't care about what he did outside of it. He did his job on the field. He bought it, and the only difference between Barry Bonds and LT is that Barry Bonds was arrogant and he treated the media bad, and that's why he's not in. Because you clearly can't talk about his stats, what he's done, what he's accomplished. It's almost like, okay, he wanted to treat us that way. I bet you he won't ever see the Hall of Fame. Most of the writers are non-athletic people, didn't play sports. That's the only way they can get close to sports is that they got a pen and they be able to sit back and they talk about you when you do something wrong. And they really take advantage of people when you're down. But if we all lived in glass houses, we could see what you do too.
Yeah, boy.
Now.
I'm telling you, very good. Hey, guys, 803-570-5031. You can see we bringing it today. We got some great topics. since we just kind of started talking, we meshed into football here. Let's move on with some football. NFL players who attend high risk events and contract COVID-19 face team discipline and risk of not getting paid. I know we already talked about this getting paid, so let's let Coach kind of start off with this, man. How you feel about this? What you think about the NFL and kind of implementing this rule?
Absolutely. If you're going to go out and you know the implications of what's going to happen with our team, with our organization, you're not practicing self-discipline. You put an eye before the team, all those things that will cause us not to be able to play a game. And remember, we need our checks. So you're only thinking about this person, but you ain't thinking about the team right now, and we all need to get paid. And that's what it's about. I think the discipline is there, and I think it'll put more responsibility on the player as an individual to say, can I have enough self-discipline to do the right thing, not just sometimes, but all the time. I got to understand that this got implications to it. It could cause us to lose a week's salary. I mean, the contact tracing thing really is a big issue, because now if I'm at practice, I'm going to be in the huddle with that guy at some point in time. If I'm at practice, we're going to tackle each other at some point in time. So if I got to go through contact tracing, I could end up with 9 of my teammates in a big game that could cost us a Super Bowl or cost us a possibility spot to play in the playoffs. And I made a stupid decision based off myself, and I say that it's okay for me to just leave. I think the hell he should be fined, and more than that, I would put more implications on that. And that goes for basketball, baseball, and everybody too, because if we was coaching college football right now and ready to play a season, there would be a lot of strict guidelines that wouldn't normally be in place for my team to play, but I have to put that in place in order to protect my record, the team, the trainers, and everybody that's involved, invested into this situation. Go ahead, Lee.
Because they're business partners. I'm going to piggyback. They're business partners. You got a union that works with the Players Association, works with the NFL. You're business partners. So you should have the same utmost respect for the NFL season as the owners and administration does of the NFL. So if you can't discipline yourself enough to stay out of the strip clubs or doing all this foolishness, you know what? You don't deserve to be a part of it. So opt out, man. If you got a few pennies saved, opt out, do your thing, but don't come around other people in the huddle, in the facility, and infect them if you are not disciplined enough. And Coach, you know this, discipline is part of athletics. So right. You have to be, that's the difference between half of these guys that we saw, Marvin, you saw play football at a high level, but you see them down at the liquor store now, right? And they're down at the liquor store getting the fifth, compared to the ones that are in the league. That's the difference, man. It's discipline. And so I commend the NFL for putting it in. And I'm not just a homer, Marv. I commend them. But you know what? It's such a nice show today, this week. I mean, I don't know why, but we'll look at it later. But anyway, but I love it, and I think I'm glad that they put that in there, because they're business partners and they have to work together, man. They have to be working together.
What a surprise! The head football coach and the Dallas Cowboy homer thinks the NFL is doing a wonderful job. You know what? That's great. You got man.
Wait. I never said that they were doing it's that's CBA. But the question you asked, I think it was perfectly implemented. And I think even if you was at the level and you wasn't paying a guy, there has to be some type of guideline in place in order to keep your team in order. You know, because like you said, everybody got to get paid. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's causing a problem. And if you remember in basketball, when they first opened the bubble, they were sneaking out and stuff. Maybe if they had to put some stuff in place there, he wouldn't have been wherever he was at.
Well, let me ask you guys. I mean, you know, listen, both of y'all are making very good points. But don't you think there's a little bit of hypocrisy here? Because if you look at the stipulations the NFL put, it's all these places with 15 or more people, right? You can't go to church, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't. They even put disco in their wording about where players can't go. But if I'm not mistaken, I mean, when you go to a football facility, isn't there more than 15 players there? When you're in a huddle on the field, isn't there more than 15 players at a time? But I'm just saying. I mean,
okay, but then the difference between that locker room and the disco in that locker room, they gonna be then tested everybody, put them in that bubble. They all been whatever. But if he goes to the disco or the church or anywhere else, they ain't been tested. You taking a chance. That's not a hypocrisy. That is facts.
But the same thing we see in baseball right now. You don't know where these dudes going. You not gonna know where they going, right? You are putting your trust that they gonna be great teammates. And you, Teddy, you know this. Not everybody's great teammates, okay?
Oh, we know that.
We know this. So the NFL is saying we're gonna trust you to be great pillars of the NFL and represent the NFL and do the things you're supposed to do not to catch COVID-19. But we ain't gonna put nothing in place to protect you from yourself, because what you got when you got money, you got a lot of time and you got access. They used to access and time on their hands. And what you do when you got money and time on your hands, you go out and get wings at the strip club at 12 o'clock.
But what did I just tell you earlier when we was talking about the exposure to the other teams? I think that everybody's saying, and just in the conversation we had, I can only talk about the world I know. People are saying what the NBA is doing obviously has worked. So now everybody's trying to formulate. Remember, we all started this with no blueprint. Nobody had never seen it. So everything is being made up as it goes. Because you have something out there that looks somewhat successful, now we're trying to say, well, how can we take what they doing and formulate it to our sport and make our sport environment safe? So the first measure that the NFL took without plan, without knowing, without people going to camp, they say, well, we're going to find our players. That's the youngest rule in the world. We're just going to find everybody that don't come. But guess what? That hurts more in football than you know it do. You want to hit a man where it hurts? Hit him in his pocketbook. In basketball, at least you got some type of guaranteed money. In football, if he ain't running the ball and get 1,500 yards, guess what? That bonus that might have said on the piece of paper, $32 million, could be $300,000. And the car note he got out there with that new Lambo with the doors cut off, that's $300,000 right there. So he ain't trying to mess that up.
And Marv, remember, during the week, the beauty, coach can vouch for, the beauty of the football season is structure. It's structure for an individual. It's structure from Monday through Saturday. You play on Sunday. It's structure, and they have one day in the NFL that they have off. And I hope they're so tired that they can't go anywhere. But it's such a structured, orderly week that discipline is what it takes. Most people, the knuckleheads, don't get in trouble during the season. It's when they have downtime that they start acting like they ain't got any sense. But the structure of the season will keep them out of Lady Mae's massage parlor. And
Lee, on that Tuesday that they have off, you can almost see them possibly making them like get a hotel somewhere or wherever they got the team hotel. You could almost watch them. I can see this unfolding as we talk about this, that they could possibly take that Tuesday that they're off and they're going to quarantine them in that hotel just to keep it down so they don't lose people.
Yeah, good point, Coach.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's a beautiful thing. Don't give them any time out. Get the season through.
Well, the beauty of this is that we're going to get to watch this play out. So we can speculate all we want to right now, but we all going to get to watch this play out, and I can't wait to come back and say I was right. So moving on in the NFL, we got Alex Smith. We're going to go to Seattle real quick. Jamal Adams trade. He got traded to the Jets for a couple first rounders. Who do you guys think won that trade? You think Seattle came out on the high end? You think the Jets did? Lee, let's start with you. What do you think about that trade for both teams? And who do you think came out successful with that trade?
Giving up 2 first rounders and a third, that's a lot. That's a lot to give up for one player and a middle round draft pick. But let me say this. When I look at it from Seattle's perspective, you see a team that is a contender, that always contend. So they're going to draft in the mid to late 20s or possibly 30th and the early 30s. So I don't see it as too much. I see it as you're getting a stud player who, Coach, he can probably play corner as well if he has to, but he can play both safety positions, and he's talented enough to be a nickel corner if they have to get your best all of your best defensive backs on the field. So for me, I'm not going to go as much as who won because we don't know who the Jets are going to draft with those draft picks, right? So we don't really know. I mean, hell, the last 7 draft picks the Jets have drafted, 6 of them ain't even on the team anymore. So we don't know what the hell they're going to do. Shit, Mark, they might call me up and I'm going to lose, okay? So I got to call them going. But so I'm not going to say who won, but I will say I think Seattle got a stud player who's going to help them immensely on their back end, who is very, very similar to Earl Thomas, who they used to have. And I think he's even more athletic than Earl Thomas back there.
No doubt.
So I think he's a hell of a player, and I think Seattle can rebuild their secondary around him and the Shaquille. Yeah.
Well,
I think the secondary is rebuilt around Jamal Adams. I think it was a great pickup for the Seahawks.
Well, you haven't seen the last of the Seattle. I think they're going to go after an edge rusher. I believe, and I think they right now quoting Clowney. I think Clowney is one of those guys because he's disgruntled in Houston. And I think in the situation that you guys speaking on with the Seattle and the Jets, I think both won. I think my man really was ready to get out of the Jets anyway. So now they needed that big time player and to add to that contender. He pretty much should be happy because he's fixing to go from a team that probably had no chance to play for a Super Bowl to a chance that legitimately got a chance to play for a Super Bowl. So I think that both parties won. One got something out of their locker room that could have potentially caused cancer because they wouldn't try to sign his contract extension. So if I'm not going to get the extension, and I love what Pete Carroll did. They signed him, but they said, we're not going to sign your extension until after 1 year. So now they don't get what they traditionally got caught up in. Seattle has made a lot of big time, picks and paid $60 and $70 million to a guy that might not even play on the team. So they've wasted money. But this time, I think they got it right. I think Seattle won in this deal, and it's still going to save space. You guys watch the draft. People are going to draft by what they need. But Pete Carroll has taken a page out of the Saints and Bill Belichick's book that they go late and they find guys that are real under the radar, or they trade for them later on down the road at a cheaper price, or they hoping they free agent market up to be able to get the guys that they need to get. But I honestly believe, and we'll all see how this unfolds, Seattle won, but like he said about the Jets, who knows what they're going to get. It's all depending on what they pick up for it.
Well, I'm kind of with both of you guys. I think I'm with Coach though. Actually, I think they both won. The Jets don't really win because they're just so terrible. But Seattle gets back a safe. He's probably the most versatile safety in the NFL. I don't even think that's a question. I think it makes them immediately a Super Bowl contender. It's going to make Seattle tough. But listen, with the Jets, you get 2 first rounders, you get a third. That gives you capital to maybe put some weapons around Sam Darnold to find out if he is the quarterback that you think that he is. If he's not the quarterback that you think he is, now you got to pick to replace him in 2022. So, I mean, that could be something that happens as well. So with the Jets, I think it was addition by subtraction. He was disgruntled. He wasn't happy. They wanted the best deal out there. They weren't going to win much this year anyway. So I like the deal for the Jets because they are in a rebuild phase. But with Seattle, this makes them scary. And like you said, I think is Jadeveon with Seattle right now?
Well,
or is he still?
He's a free agent right now. He's a free
They
agent
told
right
him.
now.
When I saw the wires, he's on the NFL wires as a free agent, but he was disgruntled in Houston, so I could see him as a guy they were going to go after because they need an edge rusher. They don't have an edge rusher to go along with that.
Yeah, they don't have an edge.
And Clowney played real well last year. He didn't. People talk about the number of sacks. Coach, I'm a guy. Yeah, sacks. That's the big stat. But I'm a guy that says pressure is more valuable than sacks. You know what I'm saying? Get back there so that the quarterback moves and throw the ball away. That's just as good as a sack. So Clowney was always back there on quarterback pressures. They kind of downgraded him because he only had like 9 sacks or whatever. But he was always in the backfield. I hope Seattle gets him. I'm Seattle's. I'm partial to the Seahawks. I don't love them like I love the Cowboys. But I'm partial to him, Mark.
Boy, I tell you what, Coach, he will find any way to get some kind of reference to Dallas in the show. We ain't even got Dallas nowhere on here, but he gonna find a way to get Dallas in here. Okay, so we gonna move on to one of their rivals right now, kind of talk about them.
Before we move on, we do have a couple of comments from YouTube. It's from Tanikia Orange, and Tanikia says Seattle came out on top, no question. And I do want to remind folks to give us a call, 803-570-5031. That's 803-570-5031.
That last comment from somebody, she sounds kind of familiar to me, but I'm gonna leave it at that. So we're gonna move on to the Redskins in the same division as those beloved Cowboys of Lee Jones. Alex Smith was cleared to resume football-related activities. Is he a viable option for the Redskins at QB this year? Coach, what you think about this, man, with Alex Smith in Washington?
I don't know, man. There's something wrong with Washington. They already called the Washington football. I mean, the last quarterback I remember that was any good, I think his name was Doug Williams. I don't remember anybody after that. I mean, they just shooting the dice. I don't know. I just don't know. I can't. I toyed with this question, and I even thought about it. I don't know if Alex Smith is a fit there. I don't know, because it all depends on how well he got weapons around him. Alex is a good quarterback. He's not bad, but at the same time, it's not enough weapons there to make a quarterback to be successful. They want to run the ball. That's what Gruden did. He ran the football, so it's not set up for a guy who likes to throw.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. Before you go, Lee, I'm gonna tell you what. That defense should keep them in a lot of games. That defense should keep them in a lot of games this year. And if that defense comes to be what we think it could be, with Reuben Foster maybe coming back in the middle, you got a strong D line with the two boys from Alabama. The back end is still a little bit weak. I mean, it's still a little bit questionable. But if you can get a quarterback that maybe is serviceable to not lose games for you, and maybe throw a pass or two, or do something to help you win a game. Listen, I mean, he averaged 8 interceptions a year since 2010. I mean, he's been pretty efficient. 3 years ago, he led the league in passer rating. So, like you said, Coach, he hadn't been an awful quarterback. So if I'm Washington and I got a good defense, and I know I'm going to probably stay in games, and we know what their formula is, Coach. Like you said, they want to run the football with Coach Gruden. And do I put Dwayne Haskins out there, who I never was high on in the first place? A lot of stuff he did at Ohio State was because he just had superior talent. Now, he's got a great arm. He's got some arm talent. But do I think he's ready to lead an NFL franchise to where Washington wants to go? I don't. So I do think he's a viable option for them.
But Washington got to want to go where Washington want to go. Nobody's talking about Alex. I think Alex would be doing them a great service. But what do they got around him to help them be great? Now his numbers go from 8 interceptions to 12 or 13 because they don't have nobody. They want to run the football. It's going to be hard. Their defense is great. They're phenomenal. They could be really good at defense, but that ain't going to do nothing in the NFL if he can't move the football. You got to score. Offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, but you got to be able to score. And when it comes down to it, you can run the ball all you want to, but you better be able to throw it some to keep somebody honest. They're going to put 8, 9 in the box, and the run game is out the door on them. They don't have the talent offensively to help Alex Smith. So I disagree. I do not want Alex to go there. I didn't want to say it publicly. No, Alex, go find you a team that's going to let you be successful. That's not going to be it. If you think you're going to deal with it, hey, that's your choice. If they pay you a lot of millions, yeah, go ahead. You got the money out the deal. But if you go in there to play for a championship or to try to make a team better, you need to ask the GMs to ask you some people around you to help you do that.
Come on, Washington football team fans. Come. I want to hear what you got to say. Look, this is just a bunch of crap. But first of all, Alex Smith needs to go ahead and retire, man. Look.
Man, you can't tell that man to retire, man. You don't know that man rehab. You don't know what that man doing.
Smith, the reason he led the league and all, he's a dinker and a dunker, man. This dude, that was a reason that they shipped him out of Kansas City, because they weren't going to win a Super Bowl with Alex Smith. They're like, Washington's not going to win a Super Bowl with Alex Smith. I mean, he's a nice guy, great story. He's worked his way back, but nobody really knows how stable that bone is in his leg. And last thing we want to see is another Joe Theismann laying on the field with another bone sticking out of their leg. So I think Alex Smith should go up in the broadcast booth. But getting back to the Redskins, yeah, they have a hell of a front four. You like the Redskins because they got them Alabama boys. I get it.
I mean, how can you not like it?
On the end, so they have a formidable front four. Matter of fact, they have a nasty front four. Secondary ain't a bit of good. So that's the place where we gonna explore them as I get my triplets in there. But for me, I think Dwayne Haskins is the guy, Marv. You're right. He has tremendous arm talent. Last year, Gruden really didn't want Haskins, and we do that.
And neither did Marvin.
and Haskins was immature too. He didn't prepare himself. I don't care if they don't want you. You're supposed to prepare yourself like that's quarterback don't get hurt this week and I'm gonna step in. So he was very immature. But I like Dwayne Haskins, and I think he is the quarterback for the Redskins. I like his arm strength. I like his accuracy. But you're right. They have to get some weapons on the outside for them to be viable. But as far as Alex Smith, I think that's Haskins' job to lose, really.
Good point. All right, we'll move on.
Alabama plug, Marv. I hear you.
I mean, look, they got 3 boys on the front four. They got 2 linebackers, Sean Dion Hamilton, Reuben Foster. I mean, they Alabama deep. So
that front 7 is the bomb. I give them that.
Yeah, they deep. So, but you're right. I mean, and Coach Keaton said it. I mean, they're gonna have to score some points, especially in that division. You're not going to be able to not score points in that division and be viable. So as much as I'm not a Cowboys fan, the Cowboys are going to put up some points. I mean, you're going to have to score. So we'll see where it goes. Moving on. Let's go to the AFC South, guys. Let's give a little bit of preview for the AFC South and who we think might come out of that division victorious. We got Tennessee, we got Houston, we got Indianapolis, and of course we got Jacksonville. Lee, I'm going to let you start with this. Who do you see coming out of the AFC South, and what do you think about that division coming up this year?
Yeah, I think we all can agree Jacksonville are going to come up on the rear. They done had so many ramen sales in Jacksonville, it feels like, it's pitiful. So we think we're going to put Jacksonville in the 4th spot. Indianapolis is interesting because I like Paris Campbell as a wide receiver. They got T.Y. Hilton. He's a big-time receiver. And that boy out of USC that they got, he's a stud, man. He's a stud. So they did upgrade the receiving core significantly. I just don't like Phillip Rivers. I never have liked Phillip Rivers. I think he makes terrible decisions. He's not mobile. And when you talk about interception, look, he had a game that had 6 or 7 interceptions last year. So I'll put Indianapolis in the 3rd spot. And then the battle is going to be between Houston and Tennessee. A lot of people are down on Houston because they traded DeAndre Hopkins. But let me say this about Houston: you got Brandon Cook, you got Kenny Stick, you got the boy that played at Dallas last year with the green eyes. What's green eyes' name? Randall Cobb. So you got receivers there, but the common denominator about all of them are they stay hurt all the time.
They stay hurt.
Stays hurt. You can't get so for me, Deshaun doesn't have reliable receivers. He has talented receivers because there's not really a more talented receiver than Brandon Cook. 4.2 something, deep speed, but he's hurt all the time. And man,
but you forgetting a big acquisition for the Texans though. They picked up David Johnson from.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Now, David Johnson, 3 years ago, he was a stud. 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards. Now, he got hurt, and then last year, he lost his starting job. So we don't know what David Johnson's going to be. But if he gets back to that form, they got a different stud. Yeah. I'm going to go Tennessee because we know what Tennessee is. Give the ball to Henry, get out of his way, play action. One thing about Tennessee, though, I'm not a big Tannehill guy, right? So when I look at the quarterback position, I say Houston got a shot because of Deshaun Watson, but the receiving core is bad. But then I look at Tennessee, and you say Henry's a stud, but then Tannehill to me is a piece of trash disguised as a quarterback. So I'm gonna go Tennessee, Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville.
But I'm gonna let you go in a second, Coach. But Coach, you know this. man, a good running game can disguise a lot of ailments on
Absolutely.
offense, and
That's
that's
why
that's that's why Tannehill looked so much better last year because
absolutely.
you had to load that box on Big Boy back there because he was bringing that wood. So, Coach, go ahead, tell us what you think.
Well, I'm with you guys. I'm a Houston. I like Houston, but I'm gonna tell you why. You said it. Yes, they did pick up Dave, but guess what? They got another injured player to go with all the other injured
Yeah.
receivers that they got. So I don't know if that was a good choice. But I'm just going. We gonna toss it in the bag because I would have went Tennessee Houston. But I'm gonna tell you something. Indianapolis got my eye right now. I keep telling y'all, somebody's sleeping on them. So I'm going to flip that. I'm going to go Indianapolis because Houston going to be broke up at receiver, and Deshaun can only carry the load for so long. And they got rid of my favorite receiver, who I thought he was the best, that I just loved him.
Yeah.
He could get the thing done for him. I love him. But I'm going to go Tennessee and Indianapolis because Houston only because Houston gonna be they don't know what receiver that's going. If they get four that's healthy, they can give Tennessee a run for their money if they keep four of them healthy with Deshaun. But Tennessee is by far the first. I'm gonna go Indianapolis, Houston, and Jacksonville. They might as well just push the reset button and start over next year.
Coach, do you trust Phillip Rivers though with Indianapolis?
No. It's just the pieces that they're adding to it that's gonna give him a chance. And Phillip Rivers, even when he was at San Diego, he really was never a guy that he always buzzed. I mean, just keep it 100 here. I mean, he choked under pressure.
In the big game, yeah.
Every time he got in a situation to put his team in a place to win, you couldn't bet on him. So I that's why I'm struggling with myself right now. Like Indianapolis, you got some pieces that could really make me say, Houston, you got some pieces, but everybody broke up. And by the time we get to that point, Houston may disappoint me. Deshaun Watson last year, he held them down. It's a lot of times. I think when y'all was having the quarterback debate and somebody said, would you put this guy? He went with Patrick Mahomes. I was listening in on the show. I typed in the comments, I'm taking Deshaun Watson because I've seen that man in fourth quarters come back and put his team on his back, just like Patrick Mahomes did. But at the same time, they don't have something's missing there. I don't know what it is, but something's missing there because they easily. I'm a coach, and I said I wasn't gonna say this tonight. I even prayed about it last night when I was making my decision to be on this show. But I think it's the coach. You know, I'm a coach.
I was about to say that, Coach.
I think it's the coach. I don't know because they've been in position. They break my heart every year. I just think that they could win. They should have been in 2 Super Bowls by now.
Man, the MO was out on Brian, man. O'Brien. We all know about that. I was just gonna say that to you. It's the coach, and everybody knows it. But listen, two guys who care so much about money and about guys getting paid and all that kind of stuff. I'm really surprised that both of you didn't mention this. The Texans have a lot of cap space. Remember that. They got a lot of cap space and money to spend. Indianapolis, they got 80 million to spend before free agency week. That's a lot of money that they can spend to add some weapons. So don't forget that. With the Texans, though, the biggest thing for me with them is the fact that defense and that defensive line has been gutted. They don't have a strong front. J.J. Watt stays hurt now. You don't know what you're going to get from him. So, and they asked Deshaun Watson to do so damn much. That's the thing that scares me with them. Indianapolis, coach, is interesting. I don't trust Phillip Rivers, but I trust the money they got to spend, and I trust that they got a pretty good core. They got a great offensive line. So they could make some moves to make it interesting. I do still think Tennessee is the cream of the crop. Their core stayed together. As long as Derrick Henry can still run the football, they got a good, solid defense. They're going to stay in games. But I do think that Indianapolis is the sleeper of that conference because of the money they got to spend, and they really bolstered that defensive front as well. So, like you said, coach, defense win championships. Indianapolis is definitely going to be better on defense. They put some pieces around, but I do still think that Phillip Rivers will find a way to lose it. So I agree with both of you on that one.
Yeah,
what you
and
got,
I think
Lee?
with the Houston thing, and that's why I'm so scared of them because defensively, they got a lot of cap space. We know that, but at the end of the day, they got to spend all that money. That secondary was awful. That D line was the only thing that kept them. Even though they gave Watts a lot of credit, I thought Watts wasn't as good as some other players on the team was. Like I said, I try to stay away from calling names and pointing fingers at people, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of work that's got to be done in Houston, and I think it starts at the helm. And then that's just what it is. And if they change that over, and I think, even my man is the defensive coordinator, he's done a great job scheme-wise, but as far as talent, they just not talented on defense. They outscore people. That's what they've been doing. And then you're getting themselves in games where it becomes a shootout. But if they played against a team that could shut them down offensively, they would get beat by 60.
Yeah.
Should have kept Clowney, because they should have kept Clowney, Houston. J.J. Watts, last 2 years been hurt, beat up. He was a great player, and he still gets it done in spots, but he's been beat up. Now, I will say this about the coach. He has won 4 division championships straight. Now, that may be by default. He did win it last year. We'll see what he's going to do this year. But he has won 4. We got to give him some credit, O'Brien. But I will say, he makes some dumb moves. I can tell you that right off the bat.
I wish I had a tie in this so I could hang myself, because when you get that close to being that close, and that's what I'm talking about. How do you get to a point where you that close and you can't never finish the deal? You got to be a closer. They don't give crowns to people who start stuff. They give crowns to people who know how to finish, and he hasn't finished.
I know that. I just give him props because he has won 4. They let a lot of defensive talent out of the door, and that's hurt them.
They did.
And like I said, D-Hop, I don't know what that was about, but they just got a mass unit, man. All of them get hurt, and that's what's going to kill them. But you're right, Coach. Deshaun a bad man. Deshaun is a bad man.
When you playing that many snaps on offense to outscore people, and your defense is going out there just letting them run through you like a 10-horse can, it's kind of hard for them to be able to do what they need to do. I think defense, you gotta have a solid defense. In order for me to even think about you being a championship team, I'm gonna first see how your defense is. I give Washington more credit for their defensive host. If they could transfer that talent down to Houston, hey baby, we'll be in the Super Bowl. And let me get a new coach too.
All right, guys, very good. So we're gonna transition a little bit here to college football. Pretty sensitive subject here, but guys, call in 803-570-5031. We love to hear what you have to say on this next topic we're about to tackle. But Iowa football and their head coach see black players speak out on the program's racial inequalities. What do you guys think about just Iowa being blind to this? Black players starting to speak out at Iowa. Coach, I'm going to let you take this first since you have more of an insight on this than we do. What do you think about this?
Well, from a standpoint, I'm going to say this here about the racial speaking. I think a lot of players have a platform now to be able to speak up. I think what's going on at Iowa has went on in a lot of programs, but everybody's been afraid to speak. But since the Black Lives Matters, thing has came to the forefront, and I think because of the protests and different things, I feel like some of the players now are seeing an avenue that I can speak up and say, this is how I was treated. When you go back to the Iowa situation, obviously it's been going on a little deeper than what has been going on the rest around the country, because they're digging up players that's played there 6, 7, 8 years ago that's saying the same thing that players that's currently there. So you have to ask yourself a question. I ask myself, is it time for them to pack up from, and let's don't get it true. Coach Kirk has done a really good job with that program since Hayden Fry. He's won a lot of ball games. He's put them back in national parliament. But that racial slurs and those things that go along with that program puts you in a sensitive situation to any administrator to have to say, hey, we got to look at something else, because let's put it like this. If they don't have some of the players that they get and that are African-American players that's been truly good to their program, it could be a long day for Iowa. They could go back to what they used to be. And that's just that's what I feel. I just feel like it's not, I think it's been out there, and I think it's just coming to the forefront, and everybody's having their say-so at it now.
Yeah, those black players, and look, Kirk Ferentz, he's been a good coach. I agree with you. He's won football games, but let's peel back the onion and go a little deeper, though. Humiliating black players, having them run around the field with trash cans on their head and stuff. But you're humiliating black players, but you're not doing it to white players, right? You're disciplining black players differently than you are the white players. Well, black players is reported, and this is not me. This is what other football players are saying that have attended Iowa, If black players are one and done, they're out of there. White players, they let them go do community service, which means you just go play basketball at the rec center and they sign off on it. You know what I mean? So those are the injustices that these black players are talking about. And I'm glad they're speaking up. But then you go a little bit deeper. You know, they're number 60 of 65 Power 5 conferences in graduation rate. Only graduating 40% of their players. You know, this is the kind of foolishness. So those guys are going up there, and the guys are reportedly saying they're scared to be themselves. That, you know, they're scared to act, you know, the way a decent young black men act because of the repercussions of how they're viewed. And it's pretty much, you know, throw the football and catch it and shut up, basically. We're going to put a metaphor in there. And that's ridiculous, man. That's ridiculous. But it said between 2020 and 2015, Iowa enrolled 31 black scholarship players. Only 8 of them have graduated. Now, so what are they actually doing there at Iowa for the black player? And how are these black players feeling that they said that they've met and talked with Coach about it. So Coach knows this stuff. In my opinion, and this is just Lee Jones's opinion, it's time to move on at Iowa and get somebody else to come in there and change this status quo. And I don't know Kirk Ferentz from a hole in the wall, but what I do know is the results that's happened there and the fact that all of these black players now are speaking out about things that have been going on for the last 15, 20 years. So it's time, in my opinion, with all of this going on, to move on, bring somebody else in there to change the status and the culture at the University of Iowa. Those are my feelings. And I don't know the guy. I'm not going to say he's a bad guy, but what I can say is he's made some horrendous decisions and not hurt his black players, of which the ones are out there starting on the football field.
Well, Lee, we're talking about Iowa, okay? Iowa. I'm just like, you know, what is a kid doing in Iowa? Black anyway. I mean, what are you doing? Picking potatoes or something? I don't know what he's doing there. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's actually been tolerated by the administration because I'm sure this has been brought up behind closed doors prior to today. So that's why I have always thought to myself, because even at a small school that I coach at, and I pass judgment on nobody because we all tiptoe with that line of sometimes saying the wrong thing that could be potentially offensive to someone. So I always try to look at both sides of the story, but to turn a blind eye and to get on national TV and say that you don't know or you don't know the pulse of your team, really, that's what really set me back there. It really told me, well, Coach, I had spoke with Lee before we got on here that I might not say anything about it, but they turned a blind eye, and he said publicly that he did not know that this was going on his team.
How could you
Obviously,
not?
I'm a head coach. I know everything that goes on my team. If I don't know, I can't go to my president and something happened and I got to say, well, let me call you back because I got to find out what happened. I better be able to explain that situation, know what's going on, because ultimately I am the head, I am the leader. I should know everything that's going on. And if I don't, it makes me look bad as an administrator. That's all I thought, is that from his administrative standpoint, you need to be meeting with your coaches, the people you hired. I'm sure somebody said something about the weight room coach. I'm sure if we dug a little bit deeper, we would find some more stories that was told about it that never hit the public.
Hey guys, let me take this a little different direction real quick. Being somebody who played, you know, at a big time college, what do you guys think about this? So some of the things that were said by some of the black players, let's just kind of take this piece by piece. They were forced to conform to white culture. Newsflash, I went to the University of Alabama. When I stepped off the basketball court, or when I got outside of Bryant-Denny, the dorm that we stayed in, I ain't see no other black folk. And I can promise you that's the same thing that go on at Iowa. It's the same thing that going on at Ohio State. It's the same thing that go on at UCLA. It's the same thing that go on everywhere. Yeah, you're going to have to conform to white culture because ain't nobody else look like you on school except for being an athlete. So I understand what they say, but that's the reality when you go to schools like that, because it ain't many of you there. Because the only people that you hang around that look like you is the ones that's on scholarship with you. Once you step outside of that circle, you don't see you. You don't associate with those people because you don't see them. So let's just kind of, let's take this into some perspective when you talk about school. So if we're talking about this makes an even bigger argument about HBCUs for Black athletes. This is a much bigger, puts a bigger perspective on what we're talking about here, because that's what you're going to see when you go to these schools. They talking about they got verbal harassment by some of the coaches. Well, I'm going to put myself as a player back in the day at the University of Alabama. Most of the white kids on my team, they weren't putting in no work because they weren't playing and they weren't winning games. So most of the dudes that was getting yelled at was the ones that was putting in work, that was in the games, that had to be coached hard because they were the people who were performing. I ain't see a lot of guys that I played with that was white that was putting in work. I'm just going to be honest. And I think a lot of dudes that played at Alabama, we probably could say the same thing. They were misled about resources. Yeah, you get misled about a lot of stuff when you're on recruiting visits because people want you to come to their school. They're going to tell you whatever it is that you want to hear. As long as I get you here to dribble a basketball, catch a football, do whatever it is that you need to do, I'm going to tell you whatever sounds good to make you get to this school. Once you get there, it's your responsibility to do what you need to do to get to where you need to be. But as an 18 to 22-year-old, sometimes you don't know what that looks like, right? Then they said that they were, misunderstood by coaches and players that were white. Yeah, they not Black. I had a head coach at University of Alabama that didn't understand nothing about Black culture. I didn't go there expecting him to understand anything about Black culture. Now, allowing me to be myself or whoever that may be, that's a different discussion. But I never thought that my head coach was going to understand who I was because he don't live that. He never lived it. He don't go home to it. How does he understand? So these are some of the things that I heard that these guys were saying, and they were unsupported in their academic pursuits. You can go to any major university and every player to a T, unless they came in making 4.0s, no, they not making it to the NBA, making it to the NFL. Every guy that go to school think he making the league. I thought I was making the league. Every other guy thought they was making the league. What is academics? I don't give a damn about academics. And most of us who go to school, parents didn't go to college. You had no thought about what college really meant from an academic standpoint, because the weight of you was to make it to the league, go make money for your family, go do what you need to do, right? So these academic, they don't have your best interest at heart. They want to keep you eligible to continue to make money, to continue to make the college viable, to continue to make the college relevant, period. So it's not their responsibility. So guys can say this all that they want to say, but at the end of the day, the university is trying to make money and they're making money off your back. They could care less about all this stuff. So when you go to these schools, you better expect it. They can have diversity counseling and they can have all this stuff that they say, but when you walk outside of that bubble that you live in as a college athlete, you don't see yourself, period.
But Marv, they said that they didn't even feel comfortable at the facility. They felt they walked on eggshells at the facility, where at least on campus at the facility, there should be an atmosphere where players feel safe. Now we can all say, well, they can leave, but that's easier said than done. They're saying there's a white table and a Black table. That's a separation right there, Mark. And let me ask you this. You brought up your experience at Alabama. Did you feel comfortable at Alabama, though? Did you feel comfortable walking around campus? Did you feel comfortable at the practice facility? Did you feel comfortable, doing games and after the games at the parties? Did you feel comfortable in that environment?
Hell yeah. And I think everybody else, because you treat it differently. You treat it differently. Everybody know you an athlete. You walk into class, everybody know you an athlete. You go to a party, everybody know you're an athlete. Everywhere you go, you treat it differently. So I didn't go there expecting, I'm gonna feel so isolated. I'm gonna feel that, even though I went to the University of Alabama, even though I can go into a arena and see the plaque where they stood there and didn't let the Black kids into the University of Alabama. We could see where it happened, but we didn't know the magnitude of it because you're 18 to 22 years old and you're just ignorant. You don't know. But no. I didn't get that at the University of Alabama, and you know what Alabama represents, or outside of the university what Alabama is represented. So, I get what they're saying, and I'm sure that it's happening. But when you go there, especially Iowa, I mean, come on, man.
That's what I'm saying. We still arguing about Iowa. Okay, it's Iowa. If you Black and you go to Iowa, there's not many Black people there now. I mean, you understand, that's what they grew up and that's the culture that they know. So when I tell people all the time, it's different. I say this, the HBCU thing is something we coach here by choice. We all have that same dream to coach at Alabama, to coach at Iowa if we could, anywhere we want to coach. I can't say that that's not a dream or a thing. It's just like a player. He has the same aspirations to play at those places. I think every school that was, no matter what level it's at, there's gonna be a discrepancy for a black person. It's just that it's different. I was the OC, the only black coach at a school, at a white school. I felt like I was being judged a little bit differently because I turned the program around and I did the things I did, but I don't care what I did, I still was black. And I always carried myself as if though I was black. It's hard for any 18-year-old, 22-year-old, no matter, even when you're 35, 40 years old, to distinguish the fact that I'm listening to a guy who's never been in my culture. I think all y'all need to take a time, and I think you need to listen to your sister's podcast she has on YouTube. I think it's one of the best things in the world when I heard it, and I give her credit, not because she's my cousin, because she talked about how you speak to people in their language. Sometimes it's the way they were grew up in their household. We might say words amongst ourselves that we're not used to. We get to a different culture. That's a culture shock in itself. It happens at HBCUs. It just don't happen at big schools. But the only reason why the conversation about football and these kids opting to say they're going to play at HBCUs, it's not going to happen like that. In basketball, I can see that. 1 or 2 years, I'm done. I go and I play. The culture's different. That's a whole different shock to the world. People don't want to hear that. They want to play on Fox. They want to play on ESPN. They want to be seen by the announcers. So all that plays in the role to say, bam. But I did see a conversation that was interesting. It said that we got to check out these 2 kids that chose to go to an HBCU. So now they may get some television time. But hell, half of them facilities won't even hold up for a television crew to be there. So you got to think about the atmosphere. It's a lot that goes into it, whether they go to an HBCU or they go to a public white institution. I feel that you're going to, some form of discrimination goes on. I have a white quarterback. I'm quite sure we stepped over the line a couple times and said something that could have been in question about what it was. But the part that got me, and I said it when Lee said it, it really resonated in my stomach. It said, he treated the black kids differently than he treated the white kids. He did not treat them the same. Marvin, you cannot say at Alabama that they treated you no different. You made a deception to say the white kids. We all know they were on for APR. They are all on because they was legacy scholars. They all know that they came there just to be a part of the bench. They was all there because they daddy grant, put $1 million in the bank for them to make sure the school, and they wanted to say that they played at the University of Alabama. But we also know you guys were there because you were there to help win basketball games. So you got coached a little bit harder. You got fussed at a little bit differently because guess what? They held over your head. If you want to go to the league, if you want to go to the league, if you want to go to the league, these are the things that you got to do. So all in your mind, all you were ever thinking about was, if I don't listen, I'm not going to make it to the league. That's what's being told to them. And that's what, they sell that to players when they go in the door. That's all they want to talk about. How many players I got in the NFL? How many players I got in the NBA? And that's what it's about. But when you come to an HBCU, we can't tell you. We might have a few guys that got free agent draft picks, whatever, whatnot. But we can't tell you about players going to the NFL. We can tell you about a kid being successful. We can tell him about graduating. We can tell him how to be a black man. And we can tell him how to stand up for himself. That's all I can say.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say, Marv, is this. Look, they owe the kids. They don't get paid. They owe the kids the right to graduate. And if you're number 60 of 65 Power 5 schools, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. If you're 31 students start and 8, you're not doing anything. You don't care. You care about that money, but you don't care about anything else. Think about Willie Taggart, man. Willie Taggart went to Florida State. He was dealt a bad hand because Jimbo didn't recruit well towards the end because Jimbo already had his ear to Texas A&M. We knew that. Jimbo had his ear already going ahead to Texas A&M, so he didn't finish up the way he started it at Florida State in recruiting. But Taggart got 2 years. Everybody else in NCAA gets 5. Charlie Strong, he got a raw deal at Texas, and he got a raw deal at the other place, man. Because
The guy that was at Notre Dame. Kyle.
Tell
Willingham,
Willingham.
Willingham, you know. So this is what happens. This is what happens. But they were focusing on talking about graduating and making sure these students understood that. Nobody cared. So now you get Kirk Ferentz, who has been there for 21 years. So this is not an isolated incident of a year or two. This is a culture of how they're treating the black athlete at Iowa. That's unacceptable. And, you know, people should be calling for some change at the University of Iowa, in my opinion.
Yeah.
How can
absolutely.
you call for change in a culture that's already been accepted for 21 years?
Well, I think what you do is you don't send your kids there to the University of Iowa to play. That's how you get change brought about. Because, hey, the one thing about him, Coach, he is the middle of the road, above tier coach, and he's winning 7, 8, and 9 games a season, going to bowl game. But when you stop that performance on the field, that's when you make change. So, that's how that, in my opinion, that's how that rolls.
Yeah, good discussion, guys. Good discussion. Let's move on because we went a little bit long on that. But let's move on to the NBA. Guys, come on, weigh in on this one. You know, Lou Williams was out getting some chicken wings at the strip club. He got quarantined for 10 days, and he's going to miss 2 games for the LA Clippers due to what he did to get some lemon pepper wings. What are your thoughts about what he did? What are your thoughts? Do you guys see this happening a little bit more in the future? Lee, come on, start us off with this. What you think about Lee? And
Lou know he was wrong. I mean, Lou know he was wrong. Lou knows he was wrong, man. Come on. You know, you down there, you know, look, them the only place you can get lemon pepper wings is from, you know, from Magic City. Come on, man. You know he was wrong for that. No, look, he went there for a funeral. Maybe he had to, you know, but come on, man. Again, they're partners. This is their partners. That was foul, man. That was foul. And now you hurt your team. You're going to hurt your team. You're going to miss 2 games. And, Mo, we talked about this last week. The camaraderie with the Clippers is in question, man. How they are going to mesh in this bubble. You know, people, you got 4 or 5 people that are out of the bubble coming back. You got Kawhi and Paul George doing their own thing. That's why I give a clear edge to the Lakers. But, man, Lou Williams was wrong, man. He knew better than that. And you know, he thought he could get in and see Diamond for a minute. You know, and that's okay. I get it.
Coach.
Well, I'm with Lee.
Stand on that. No matter what he says, it was foul. He's a professional, and he should not have done that.
I'm with Lee on this. I'm just saying he knew what he was doing was wrong. They selfish. They're self-centered. He didn't think about the team. Maybe he had got in a fight with Paul or something. I don't know. Maybe he just said, I need to go blow some air off because, as Lee just stated, their culture already is almost divided. And you can almost tell, and he's right. He did that out of selfishness because if I'm thinking about the team and I'm a legitimate shot at playing for, NBA title, I'm trying to do whatever I can do, stay in the bed. But you know, Marvin, you can speak on this. You're a basketball player. Y'all have a problem with women. Y'all have to go see it. Somebody want to get some chicken wings. I ain't buying that. You know, I'm the coach now, and I'm going to say it from a coaching standpoint. If you come to my office and tell me that you went down to the strip club on Peach Street and told me you was going to get some chicken wings from Magic City, I'm going to look at you like, you must think I'm boo-boo the fool. Take the wing stop. Matter of fact, you could have called Grubhub or DoorDash or somebody to drop it off at the gate for me. You don't leave the hotel and go to the strip club to get chicken wings. He was saying another. So you get some legs and some breasts from there. That's what he got. He ain't go there to see no chicken wings. I'm sorry. He can tell that to somebody else. And I think the coach should have put him on the bench. Forget 2 games or whatever game, 10 games he got. He needs 20 games. Because he told me right there that I don't care nothing about this team.
Yeah, the wings was the cover up. You know, you had to get something. You had to have some kind of reason you was there. So I agree with you both. I mean, that was just very selfish of Lou Williams. But I do agree with you, Lee. I think that there is some issues with that Clipper team. And when you have Kawhi and Paul George, who aren't the most vocal leaders, and are a little bit more laid back in their approach and the way that they come with the game, and you got some guys on there that aren't, you don't have a lot of veterans on that team outside of that. I mean, outside of Lou, but you got some guys who haven't been there that long. I don't know. I do question it as well. But I think once the season kind of starts and they get into the flow, I think you'll see a change. But that's the whole thing that I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the NBA bubble right now, but I'm worried about it as this season starts to grind on and the playoffs start to grind on and these guys lose their routine of going to Magic City or going wherever they go to do what they do. It's going to start to set in and they're going to start going stir crazy in that bubble. And Teddy, you said it right. Basketball players sometimes can be a little bit different. So it's
They
Go
just
ahead.
watched Michael Jordan on The Last Dance, and Michael Jordan went to Las Vegas and said he had to unwind. And
He had to unwind.
Lou said, "Ain't nobody coming to see y'all. They coming to see me, and I need to get out and get unwind for a second. Come on now."
All right, yeah, I agree.
Here, Lee. They had to do something differently. He said something. I don't know. Like I said, Paul's not very vocal. I mean, they got into it for something, I'm telling you, and they probably tried to talk him out of leaving. And he was like, "Man, I'm going to get some chicken wings."
Well, I tell you, we've got several comments from Facebook. We got a lot of amens from the previous conversations, but on this particular one, Devontae Johnson says Lou was tripping, and Ivan, I believe, said, "I heard those wings was the truth." And from personal experience, Ivan, I can tell you, they are indeed the truth.
Oh, see, LP in the background. See, that's why we got it back there. He can give us the insight on him. Yeah, I heard those wings was pretty good too, but that ain't why he was there. So very good. Let's move on real quick. We got Kyrie. He created 1.5 million, or I think he donated 1.5 million dollars to WNBA players who sat out or who are sitting out the season for COVID-19 concerns or social justice issues. Do you think that this was from the heart with Kyrie, or do you think there's some other motives in him doing this?
Come on, Mark.
Lee?
Why can't be from the heart from Kyrie? God, man. I don't know. Look, you always have had something against Kyrie, Mark. I don't know what it is.
He's soft as wet notebook paper. That's
Come
what I
on,
got
man.
against him, man.
Hey, Uncle Drew got the sweetest handle in the NBA, Mark.
Yeah.
He got the sweetest handle in the NBA. You know that.
And once he left LeBron, the true Kyrie, he can't lead, man. He cannot lead.
Well,
I love Kyrie. Look, I commend him on the 1.5 million, man. I mean, I think that's tremendous. He putting his money where his mouth is. I know a lot of people gave him a bad rap when he was saying set out the season, but what he's doing, putting his own money, his money up for anybody that opts out, hey, that's commendable, man. I love that. I love that he's doing that. And I just want to say more power to you, brother. I know you're going to be back, you and KD next year, and going to get that chip. So that's all good too. But I'm happy to see him doing that. Contrary to what you say, Marv, that shows leadership by him doing that. And more power to Kyrie Irving. I love it.
I mean, but 1.5 million is a drop in the bucket to him. That's like me donating $1. I mean, if he would have gave 10, then I would have been on it. I would have been like, man, yeah, that's leadership. That's stepping up. $1 million ain't nothing to Kyrie Irving, man. He probably found that under his couch cushions. I mean,
think about the NBA, the WNBA salaries, 100,000, 125,000, whatever it is. He can help all of those people. So it is significant, man. Go ahead, Kyrie. Don't let them get you down. Keep your head up. Keep your head up.
Lee, I'm gonna go with you on here, Lee. I commend it, because let's think about Colin Kaepernick. If somebody would have stepped up like they did and said, "I'm gonna support you, Colin, in your efforts and what you do," those girls don't make a lot of money. $1.5 million gonna cover at least 6 of the team's salaries now. I mean, he gave something. I wish somebody would just say that is awesome, in my opinion. If he gave $2 more million, maybe some other NBA players with large salaries may say, "Well, let's help them out." Calls, they got this going on. Help me. I think he did a wonderful job. My hat goes off to him. I'm not a Kyrie Irving fan. I never have been. I got to give him his credit as a basketball player. He is pretty good. I understand the situation with LeBron. I understand the whole thing, but the man, he's done what he needed to do, and I felt like that was a step up. Kudos to you, Kyrie.
So basically what y'all saying is I need to not take this so personally. I need to just go ahead and congratulate the man is that what I need to do?
The man for what he doing, Mark. God,
okay. Congratulations, Kyrie. I appreciate that, brother. Great job, man. 1.5 million. What you made last year? 30. I mean, great job, brother. Great job.
Well, I tell
Let's move on.
Well, I tell you what, before you move on, you got a couple of comments from Facebook, and they seem to agree with the other two gentlemen. Kevin Banks says, I agree with you, Lee. Big props for the 1.5 million, no matter the reason. And he also replied to the 1.5 definitely helps. And Devontae Johnson says, at least he's giving back.
Absolutely. There you go,
You're right. You know what? You're right, Devontae. My bad. You know what? Y'all right.
Get your boy straight, Devontae.
Y'all,
Get your boy straight.
Y'all right. I need to not be personal about this. You're right. 1.5 is a great gesture. So good for you, Kyrie. Absolutely. So let's move on real quick.
He don't mean it. He don't mean it.
Let's move on real quick. WNBA, their protests over the weekend. They dedicated 26 seconds of silence and the entire season to Breonna Taylor. What do you guys think about them walking out before the national anthem, their dedication to the season of Breonna Taylor? Coach, why don't you start us off, man?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with them. I think they did a great job. I think at some point in time, we all got to make a stand for something. And I think they did what they had to do. And I think it was great for them to show some unity and show that they're standing for, the social justice. I don't think the WNBA has stood up for anything. They basically telling you just play and we're going to move on from this. And they stood up for a young lady, Breonna Taylor. That's a girl. They were showing that they're unified, that they want to see whatever justice that Breonna Taylor deserves, they feel like she deserves it. And the only way they could show their justice is by doing what they did for 26 seconds and do what they had to do. So my hat goes off to those girls for doing that. Because, look, they don't make a lot of money. So at the end of the day, for them to walk off the court, that means that took a lot of thought, a lot of conversation to say, look, we got to do this together, or they're going to send one of us home. But they ain't going to send one of us home. They're going to send all of us home.
Yeah,
and at least they put it all together. And, women, they already had met about it. They had seen. They went and had lunch, and they talked about how they was going to do it and what number countdown. They had a time sheet about what they were going to do, and they did it, and I loved it.
Absolutely. Lee?
Yeah, Mark, for me, great. Coming off of what the Kelly Loeffler lady did, talking about, the WNBA players and there's no place for social justice. I love what they did. It showed coordination. It showed unity. It showed them standing up. And like you said, Marv, we haven't seen the WNBA doing those type of things. That was a beautiful thing. And the moment of silence for Breonna Taylor, the say her name T-shirts that they're wearing, all of these things that they're doing, excellent. Great leadership. And I'm so happy that they're doing it because it makes a difference. A lot of people I know on this show, people have said that stuff doesn't matter, but it certainly matters, Marv, because they're in front of a national audience of all these millions of people. So it's a great thing. I commend them, and then I commend the sisters and keep doing it. More power to them.
Absolutely. I agree with both of you. You guys both said it well. There's nothing more for me to add. I think it's a great thing that they've done. So keep doing it. And I think it was powerful when they walked off the court as well. I think that was a powerful moment, and I'd love to see more of it and just kind of keep sustaining the movement to make sure that people don't forget. So we're coming to that time. I mean, we run a little bit long because we've had some great.
Can we get Dick in, Mark? Can we get Dick in?
You want to get Dick in real quick? All right, let's go. We all know what Mike Dicker said. I'm gonna let, since Lee needed this, he wanted to get this one in, so we're gonna let Lee start this one off.
Look, a has-been coach. I mean, look at has-been coach, won a championship off of Buddy Ryan, and again, telling the players if they kneel that they need to get out of the country. Who is he? Look at this guy. Buddy Ryan won the Chicago Bears Super Bowl, not Mike Dicker, right? The guy went to New Orleans, and he made the most boneheaded move, traded the entire draft for Ricky Williams. How did that turn out? So this is a guy who really, to me, is a failure, but he's been in the right place at the right time. But for all the people, I'm gonna make it short, Marv, for all the people that say, get out of the country and it's unpatriotic, tell them to answer this question for you. If I was in the military, I fought for the right of people, for you and coach to say whatever you want to say, right? So Mike Dicker is being unpatriotic because he's not even following the Constitution that gives you and everybody else the right to protest. So Mike Dicker, get your ass out of the country. Go back where you came from. Take your ass where you came from and shut the hell up. That's all I wanted to say, Marv. That's all I wanted.
There it is, that heat. Coach, we're going to let you end it.
I'm good. Lee just said everything I've been thinking because I'm thinking to myself, this guy needs to shut the hell up and you go home because this country was raised off our back. We worked every day to make you be what you be. You won Super Bowls off our back. So you get the hell out of the country because those guys deserve to leave because they are standing up for their rights. And it's not about the country. It's about black and white.
There it is. Well said. I think that's the perfect way to end the show. Typically, we have some closing comments, but I think both of you closed the show very strong. So we're going to lead those off.
You, man. I
Yeah,
appreciate you being on the show, bro. Definitely come back and join us.
We definitely appreciate Coach Keaton. For all of you that don't know, he is the head men's football coach at Allen University, an extensive career in coaching. As you can see, a great leader for young black men. If you got kids that play football and they want to get coached, they want to be taught how to lead, how to become great men, you need to send them to Allen where Coach Keaton is. So, Coach, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you taking the time with us. Lee, as usual, I appreciate, all the comments that you have. LP in the background, keeping it strong. Everybody, appreciate your comments that you guys came in and chimed in with us tonight. Like us on Facebook and hit us up on subscribe on YouTube. Hit the notification button so you guys know when we come on live. We do this every Wednesday and Saturday. Hopefully we have Coach Keaton on a little bit more to bring some insight. But I appreciate everybody joining us. From Marvin Orange, Lee Jones, Coach Keaton, and of course, Miss Raquel that's out there doing her thing tonight. We want to say thank you guys, and we will see you Saturday.
Raquel, I miss you, Raquel. I miss you.
Good night.
Peace.